The shocking truth behind Larry Hoover's release, Trump, Kanye, and a notorious legacy. A notorious gang leader sentenced to life, now walking closer to freedom. Why did Donald Trump just commute the sentence of one of America's most feared crime bosses? What does Kanye West have to do with it? And is Larry Hoover truly a changed man, or still a danger to society? This is the story the mainstream media won't tell you. Buckle up, because this isn't just about one man. It's about power, politics, celebrity, and America's complicated love-hate relationship with redemption. Let's go back to Chicago in the 1970s, a city riddled with drugs, violence, and gang wars. One name began rising above the rest: Larry Hoover. He wasn't just a gang member, he was the architect. Co-founder of the Gangster Disciples, Hoover built an empire from the streets of Chicago. Alongside David Barksdale, he formed what many would later describe as one of the most structured, violent, and influential street gangs in U.S. history. In 1973, Hoover was convicted for orchestrating the murder of a 19-year-old drug dealer. The message was clear: obey the gang or face deadly consequences. He was sentenced to 150 to 200 years in state prison. But prison didn't stop Hoover. According to federal authorities, he continued to run the Gangster Disciples from behind bars, ordering hits, extorting businesses, and directing a vast drug operation. In 1997, he was convicted again, this time on federal charges including drug conspiracy, extortion, and money laundering. The sentence: 6 life terms. By that point, Hoover had become more than just a criminal, he was a symbol. To law enforcement, he was the embodiment of gang culture's deadly grip on American cities. To others, especially within parts of the black community, he was a misunderstood figure caught in a system that never offered a way out. Now fast forward to 2024. Hoover is 74 years old. He spent more than half a century behind bars, most of it in solitary confinement at a Colorado supermax prison. His lawyers argue he's had virtually no contact with the outside world for decades. They say he's changed, that he's no longer the man who ran a criminal empire, that he deserves a second chance. Then came the twist no one saw coming. Donald Trump commuted Larry Hoover's federal sentence. That's right, the former president who built his brand on law and order gave clemency to one of the most infamous gang leaders in American history. Why? Some say it was political strategy. Another play to showcase his criminal justice reform efforts under the First Step Act. Others believe the real reason is celebrity pressure. In 2018, Kanye West famously visited Trump at the White House wearing a red MAGA hat and personally asked him to release Hoover. The conversation didn't stop there. In 2021, Kanye and Drake, two of the biggest music artists on the planet, united for a free Larry Hoover benefit concert. The move made headlines and brought Hoover's name back into the spotlight. But not everyone was applauding. Ron Safer, the former lead prosecutor in Hoover's 1997 federal case, called the decision to grant clemency a dangerous mistake. In his words, Hoover's crimes were so heinous, so brutal, that they are not deserving of mercy. He said, and we quote, "If Larry Hoover said there was going to be a killing, there was a killing." Harsh words, but they speak to the heart of a question that's dividing America. Has Larry Hoover truly been rehabilitated? Or is this just another case of fame and power overriding justice? Hoover himself says he's changed. In a recent court appearance, he stated, "I'm a completely different person than the man who went to prison in 1997. His attorneys say he spent over 20 years in solitary confinement with no control, no communication, and no influence. They argue he's been transformed by time, by age, and by reflection. His family believes in him. His son, Larry Hoover Jr., has publicly said he deserves redemption. He deserves a second chance at being a part of his community." And his wife, Windi Hoover, called the moment overwhelming, adding, "It's a long time coming." But here's the catch. Trump only commuted his federal sentence. Hoover still has to serve the rest of his state sentence, a 150 to 200-year term for the 1973 murder. That means his freedom is far from guaranteed. The next decision now rests with Illinois Governor J.B. Pritzker. So the question becomes, will Pritzker, who's spoken about rehabilitation and transformation, follow Trump's lead? Supporters of Hoover say yes. They point to his age, his time served, and his efforts to steer others away from gang life. Critics say that letting him out sends the wrong message, that justice can be bought or influenced by celebrity and political gain. And what does this say about Trump? To some, it's hypocrisy. To others, it's a bold move that reflects his unpredictable but sometimes effective approach to clemency. After all, Hoover isn't the first controversial figure to benefit from Trump's pen. From Lil Wayne to Kodak Black to Alice Johnson, Trump has used clemency in ways that have surprised allies and enemies alike. But Larry Hoover, that's on another level. This is a man who helped create a gang empire, who, according to prosecutors, directed murders and massive drug deals while already in prison. And yet, there's something undeniably powerful about a man who now claims to be reformed, begging for one last shot at life on the the outside. The legacy of Larry Hoover is a complicated one. To some, he's still King Larry, a symbol of everything wrong with the justice system and gang culture. To others, he's an old man who's paid more than enough for his sins and deserves peace in his final years. This isn't just about Larry Hoover. It's about power. It's about who gets a second chance and who never does. It's about whether America can truly forgive. It's about celebrity, politics, and whether redemption should come from the courts or the court of public opinion. So now we ask you, should Larry Hoover be free or finish his sentence? Is Trump using clemency for real justice or just headlines? Drop your thoughts in the comments. Smash that like button. Subscribe for more deep dives into the stories that shape our world. And don't forget to turn on notifications. And if you made it this far, comment free or fatal below. We'll be reading every single one because this conversation is far from over.